We're back online. So we have Jimmy Rogers here, and now we want to speak to him about, this is a community piece. House of Hoops is part of your community now. So, and basketball's such an important and integral part of this community. So having Jimmy on board, supporting Jimmy, being a part of, the Topcats is really important for us, and I feel that this is a great chance to ask a few questions. So, Jimmy, why Brixton? Why is it so important to basketball for the UK and London?
I came down to London, to Brixton from Liverpool in 1980, and I joined the Crystal Palace club, which was the most successful club at the time. One of the things that shocked me was the lack of opportunities for young people in inner cities to play basketball. It just didn't. Crystal Palace didn't have any inner city kids. So I decided, with a couple of colleagues, to start a club in Brixton. And by 1984, we entered the league. And in those days, it was astonishing. We used to have training was the same as now with the young ones, 6 till 8, and then 8 till 10, you have the women on one side, the men on the other. And then in the following week, the men would be on that side, and the seniors on the other. And we used to get 200 people come to training. We had every young person, black, white, male, female, talented, not so talented, came to Brixton. So the success was immediate in terms of talent and ability. That's how we started.
Could you compare the Brixton success to the rest of the country?
Sorry?
Could you compare the Brixton success to the rest of the country?
Well, it was also a time when there'd been some inner city turmoils, disturbances, riots, call it what you like, throughout the country, and one of the most well-known, well-documented was Brixton. So I came from an area similar to Brixton, Toxteth, which had a similar negative attitude towards it, and it seemed to be, and I just seemed to think it was ironic, coming to London and listening to people talking about Brixton. This was 35 years ago. Oh, you can't go to Brixton, it's blah, 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 blah. I couldn't understand it. So that was one of our primary objectives, to change that negative attitude about Brixton.
And players that have come from Brixton. Now, what people may not realise is that it's not just 1 or 2 players that have come from Brixton. Could you talk to us a little bit about, the players?
Well, it's interesting. There were 3 things happened to me in 1985. Those who know me know I go to the Final Four every year. In 1985, I went, 3 things happened. On the same day, Marvin Gaye died. I drove in a white limousine with arguably the most famous basketball coach ever, Johnny Wooden from UCLA, and I also met Michael Jordan by chance, quite by chance, because the people who took me with in the white, obviously they had Michael Jordan came to see them. Long story. So when Michael Jordan came, he said, "Oh, I've never been to England. And he wasn't anywhere near as famous as he was going to be. He was very, very popular in college basketball, and America was beginning to. There's nowhere near the global phenomenon he became. But he promised me he would come if he ever came to England, and a year later he came. Massive press down in Brixton. It was all negative because they said, "What do you feel about being in Brixton?" And he said, in the next 20 years there will be a player from here goes in the NBA. And he was nearly right to the day, Luol Deng.
Look at that.
But one of the things that happened, the only person in here who was around at that time, as far as I know, is a young man, he's not so young now, who I'd heard about with his twin brother. He's one of 13 living in East London. And I went to see him. I was impressed with his whole persona, he and his brother. And they've been told they were very small. He's still very small. They were told they were too small to play basketball. He'd been told he was from the age of 7, he was too small to play basketball. But they never quit, and they came to play with me at 14. at 15, either of them could have started for the men, and they were starring. He's Ronnie Baker over here now. Ronnie Baker. And Ronnie Baker retired from England how many years ago? 8? About 8 years ago. The most capped player in the history of English basketball. Too small. Round of applause for that. Now, I don't know why, but we've never, ever been blessed with the big boys. Never. Never. Since time we started, we've never, ever seemed to attract the really big guys. Never. So we've had to develop a philosophy to combat that, to do with our size, small, which was quickness. She's very attractive, and the kids don't like it because you have to work hard. But that's that's what it came about.
Okay. Did you see Jordan again today?
I've seen him a few times again. Yeah.
From meeting him, what could we learn from him?
What did I learn from
Yeah.
him?
What could we learn from him? You know, he's the greatest player of all time. What could we, what could we learn from his, from what he's been doing?
His resolute, his competitiveness, his you can't do this. He would never accept can't, never. Phenomenal. But also we're really, and I had a lot of time for Brixton, a lot of time for Brixton, a lot of time.
And all of Jimmy's players here, did you know that he's friends with Michael Jordan? Yeah? I'm sure that story's come out a couple times.
No, I don't know. Has anyone heard it before?
Yeah.
You have, yeah. Then we got, just out of incident, because he's the third generation now, his father was the first person I taught to play basketball, his father, in Liverpool. Marvin, that was Paul Ambrosius.
Okay.
His son ended up the highest point scorer in as a junior for our team. He was playing for the men at 15 and playing well, Marvin. When Michael Jordan came in '86, a photograph was all over the front or the back page of the Standard with Marvin like this, holding Marvin like this. Is that right, Mark?
Jordan was holding you, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
And if any of the family, if you look it up in the library, or Google it up, if you see Marvin when he was, you'll see Sky. It's a spitting image of his own son, Sky. The spitting image. It gets better. Basketball's a great family. His father, as I said, Paul Ambrosius, his idol was the fella before Michael Jordan, a guy called Julius Erving, whose nickname was Dr. J. He had a big afro. And he was the Michael Jordan before Michael Jordan.
Right.
He had the most huge hands I've ever seen in my life. And he could do all sorts with the ball and dunking it. His sister is now a music superstar in the United States, managed by Dr. J's brother, Dr. J's son, today. Amazing life, all through basketball.
For those that don't know, that's Martian Brocious and Poetries.
Yeah, Martian Brocious.
So,
Love that.
well, look, so we're going to kind of, before we, if anybody's going to have any questions, but I'm going to just ask one more question. Do you have any advice for aspiring basketball players? Because it's, I've played the game.
Me too.
And and I know
It's funny. What is funny? What's actually
I know the benefits of playing basketball. Not just on the court, but off the court. But and the discipline it gives. But what advice would you give to aspiring ballers? Because we know it's difficult to play basketball in over here, to take it to the next level.
I think first of all, most importantly, you've got to love it. You've got to love it because sometimes you've got to face your own parents who don't understand. You've got to face teachers who don't understand, PE teachers who don't understand. You've got to face your own coaching staff who maybe don't understand or differ from you. If you want to become a good player, you're going to go and play all over the place. And sometimes the coach, it doesn't fit for you. If you love it, it doesn't matter. It didn't matter for him. It didn't matter for Marvin. Yeah, I'm doing it. I do it. So you've got to really, really have a passion for it. You've got to have a passion for it. If you've got a passion for it, you can deal with those obstacles, you can deal with those negatives, and you can do it.
Amazing.
Please round of applause for Gerard.
We're going to open up the floor.
Think about your questions.
Think
please.
about it, yeah.
Please.
Does anybody have any questions that you want to ask anyone on air?
Bless you.
Jimmy, can you share your best Luol Deng story from when he was young?
Yeah, this is a good one, interesting story. Those of you who know South London, at the time we weren't in the rec in the summer holidays. We were at a place called, at a school called Bishop Thomas Grant. Yeah, Bishop Thomas Grant, which is about 4 miles away from here in Streatham. And the first day, this particularly, Deng was 11. He was 11. He was 11 years of age, yes. And he showed up late. He was never late. He was just never late. And I can assure you, I've people heard this. Ronnie will vouch for this. Deng was not the most talented kid we had here. He was not the most talented basketball player we had here. But he worked the hardest. He worked the hardest. Now he turned up late the first day and I was so shocked. He's never late. So I said, Michael, as he was known then, Michael, I said, why are you late? He said, oh, I've lost my pass. I said, 13 children, well, he had 12 children, 13 brothers and siblings or whatever. I said, he said, no, I'll be okay. Now, that was in the summer, that particular Easter, and his birthday's on the 4th of April, by the way. His birthday on the 4th. I bought a heavy rope, the first heavy rope back, and I gave it to him. And so anyway, he came to camp, all through the camp, nothing. Years later, he's in the NBA, and he came into Brixton, he started talking, and I didn't know this story. And he told everyone about the day he came late, and Jimmy had offered to buy his ticket for the month, and he said no. He ran from South Norwood to Bishop Thomas Grant, 4 miles and back every day with a 20-pound weighted jacket on his. Wow. I've suggested to some of our older kids running from home, and they look at me like I'm mental. They look at me like I'm stupid, but that's why he's in the NBA.
Yeah.
I woulda, I coulda, I shoulda, but I didn't.
And when you with Luol, did you know immediately that he was a star?
No, my colleague did. Jabbar, he did. My colleague did. He straight away. His brother was more talented. That's an example. His brother was taller and more talented. But he got presented with a statue when he left university, a bone idol. No, that's a bit too unfair. But he didn't have the work ethic of his brother. Basically.
Right. Okay. Well, just to get everybody back awake again as well, so just in case we're all here, we're going to do a little...
Did I ask you a question? What's your...
You did answer it, yeah. Yeah.
Can you see more British players going to the NBA, and why aren't there more? Is there work ethic not enough?
It is difficult. I mean, in the States, you've got any number of courts to go and play. The weather's not conducive to it here. Some of the older kids or even some of the younger ones. I mean, the younger ones, the staff at where we play complain that they're coming early. Believe it or not, complain about them coming early. You would think they'd welcome that, So it is very, very difficult. But I say, if you love it, no problem. If you love it and you say, right, I'm going to go for it, you can do it. Definitely. Deng is a perfect example. You can do it.
Would you say the gap between the States and their level of play and European play it's very close now? Because it used to be massive.
I think it's narrow at the top, the professional level. The European, Spanish league, Italian league, German league, etc. They're excellent. Problem is in the States they've got all these ridiculous athletes. But there's a lot of them are athletes. They're not good basketball players. They're good athletes. So,
Yeah, hard work and strength.
Sure.
Is most of it.
Yeah.
It's generally most of it. Talent is useful, but brawn and just commitment.
And the kids are hyped up a bit too early.
Yeah.
You understand that because...
Well, that GM's good out there.